and welcome Croatian Women's Network. We're so thrilled to have you with us again. And today's guest, I'm very excited to introduce one of our inaugural Croatian Women of Influence winners, Vlatka Hlupić, who now makes her home and has for more than 30 years in the UK. Vlatka, welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to have a chance to connect with your network.
How wonderful. We haven't seen you in a while. It's been an interesting couple of years for everyone. However, Croatian Women's Network does follow you on Twitter, and there is no shortage of amazing projects that you are continuously undertaking. In addition to being a TEDx speaker, you're a world-renowned HR management expert. And I will introduce to the group, for anyone who didn't have the privilege of meeting Vlatka, she's been voted one of the top most influential HR thinkers worldwide since 2015. So we were thrilled to recognize her as well. She's a multi-award-winning thought leader the world over. She's an activist for humanizing management. Now there's a concept. She is the author of a groundbreaking book. Now, hang tight for this title, The Management Shift: How to Harness the Power of People and Transform Your Organization for Sustainable Success. And I think, Vlatka, you wrote that book in 2014, published it in 2014, long before it was, shall I say, trendy to look for sustainability while making profit at the same time. The book was listed by Forbes magazine as one of the top 8 business books in 2014. Driven by her passion and purpose to make this a much better world, Vlatka is creating global impact with her work. She's helped thousands of leaders and organizations globally, including governments, to shift to higher performance and profit while creating purposeful and happier workplaces. And I love this. By doing well, by doing good. Doing well by doing good. That's taken up much more space in our conversations over the last few years. And I love that. Sounds simple, but not easy to do, which I'm sure you can attest to, Vlatka. So welcome. And we're so thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with you today. Today's theme, folks, is resilience. How to find it, how to build it, how to keep it, how does it change? And certainly the last 2 years have been incredibly challenging for everyone as we have fought through the COVID pandemic. Add to that the current war in Ukraine, and we send our positive thoughts and prayers and support of any kind to all the people of Ukraine, especially the women and children who are fleeing to safety and safe harbor. We wish them well, and we keep them in our thoughts and prayers. But certainly they have been an inspiration of resilience and hope in the darkest of times. And I'm sure that our viewers and our listeners and our members have struggled with their own ability to find and maintain their resilience in today's environment. And certainly, first, let's find out, Vlatka, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Following what's going on in the world and trying to raise above all that, because I know what my purpose is. And I always try to see a big picture. And I think that's a very, very important part of my resilience. And I believe many other listeners probably have similar strategies as well. So for me, it's always about seeing the big picture, why this is happening, and what is this trying to teach me, what I'm supposed to learn from these difficulties, and how I can grow and flourish and becoming a better person. So with this philosophy, I think I managed to survive and thrive many, many things, some very challenging, but I always had this feeling that I know why I'm on earth, what is my purpose. So that's really driving me to do a lot of work, juggle many roles and responsibilities, including being a mother and a father at the same time for about 15 years.
Wow.
For 2 children. So with that philosophy, I think I feel, as I call it, level 5, limitless and unstoppable.
How fantastic. And given your work product, you are limitless and unstoppable. Listeners, I wanted to share that I only gave a short introduction of Vlatka, but if you really saw all of her accomplishments, we could spend the whole half hour talking about that. Vlatka, I love what you said about knowing your purpose and understanding that the moment has something to teach you, because I think that's really when we all can rise above, as you spoke of, when we have our focus and we know what our blueprint is. So that's always a wonderful framing to be a touch point to go back to. But then sitting back and saying, okay, it might not be the best time of my life, and it might not be the happiest moment in my world, but there's something that I can take away from this that will propel me forward and into the future in a better place.
Absolutely. If I did not go through what I had to go through over years, I would not be who I am today. So I'm grateful for difficult times, for good times, because I learned and I progressed from all of that. And as I said, when we see a big picture and trying to just raise above everything, and we can find happiness and joy in little things in life as well, and really practice gratitude. And whatever is happening, well, we can breathe, we have a roof over our heads and food and water, and we have internet, so we can communicate with the world, which means we are on the top, a few percent of the people in the world. So everything is about perspective.
I 100% agree. And I love the focus on gratitude, because really, even in our toughest times, we are doing more than well when we look around the world. But there's always, I find, even in the toughest moments, there's something good to be grateful for, to acknowledge, to understand that there's a way ahead that's going to be better than where we are right now.
Absolutely. There is always a silver lining. And no matter what happens, we have to look for this silver lining.
Yes.
And also, yes, gratitude is important, but finding that purpose, that feeling, do you know why you were born to do? Do you have this calling, which is so exciting, which is so powerful, that you would do no matter what, even that you don't get paid, you will still do this work. You're so motivated that you know why you are here and what your calling is, and that really helps as a part of resilience. So, and it's all about mindset and the state of consciousness as well. And I describe this in my 5-level model, which is the essence of the management shift as well. And everything I've done is around shifting higher and higher for individuals, for organizations, and for the whole society, because it ripples out from leaders or individuals to people around them, to their organization and the wider society. So when we have this knowledge, which is really powerful, we can make such a difference for ourselves, for others, and for the world.
Beautifully said. Vlatka, how did you find your purpose? Tell us a little bit about your journey to today. You're an extraordinarily accomplished woman. You have overcome so much, but you have put out so much into the world that's had such an incredible impact. Just simply looking at your work and all of your accolades, but how did you get there? How did you get to where you are today? How do we find our purpose?
Well, a few questions. I can start with my own journey, and then I'll talk more about purpose. It just feels that I have been in the flow, because all the opportunities came to me, all the jobs that I had, I had offers, and then I thought, well, it's an offer I can't refuse, so I'll just go for it. So it seems that my path has been finding me even more than I have been finding my path. And I started my career at the University of Zagreb in late 80s, early 90s. Then I had an invitation to go to London and spent some time doing research for my PhD at London School of Economics. And then I had invitation to stay longer there and to finish there. So it was opportunity I couldn't say no to. So I stayed, and before I finished, I had few opportunities for few jobs. So I took one of these opportunities, and so on and so on. So so it seems that things were meant to be. So I was just going from one place to another. And although I started my career as a computer scientist at the time, I had this passion for people, for personal development. And I have been addicted to training courses, and I trained and I studied anything to do with brain, with people, with organizations. And I studied NLP and education kinesiology and neuroscience, psychology, OB, economics, etc., etc. And then when I had my daughter about 18 years ago, I had a little bit more time for reflection, for all this inner work, personal development work. And I thought, I was on maternity leave, and I thought, I'm not going back to computer science. I'm going to become a business school professor, and I'm going to help people and leaders. And that's what I did. I changed jobs. I became business school professor, and that's how I started working on the foundations of the management shift. And I've been working on this for years. And then eventually I wrote the book, which then changed my life completely. And then I became part-time professor, and I launched my company, which I'm still running, helping leaders and companies to go through this big transformation, big shift. So it feels like it was meant to be all this path. And I had this big inner knowing why I'm here. Well, I'm here not to deal with technology. I'm here to help people. And that's how I started this second career. So I'm a computer scientist who became behavioral scientist. But because I studied so many different disciplines, I was able to raise above all disciplines, connect the dots. And that's how I created the management shift approach, which is now the backbone of all the transformational programs that I'm doing now. So, and in terms of how do you find purpose, I'll just share some questions for our viewers. So think about what really energizes you, what really excites you. What do you feel you were born to do? Think about what you were really excited about when you were young, when you were a child. What were your passions when you were very young? So try to connect with your inner child and just relight this fire, this passion that we have as young children. And think about what is it that it's so exciting for you to do, that you would do it no matter what, in any circumstances. Yeah. And what does it feel like? It's some kind of a spiritual calling, of really your deep love purpose that is driving your existence here on earth.
That's so interesting. You talked about connecting the dots and the path opening up in front of you. In our previous podcast, we talked about navigating risk and how decision points in our life help us navigate risk. And I think sometimes, especially as women, fear holds us back from making those decision points that allow us to take a risk or to navigate the risk that's in front of us, or we are paralyzed by the perceived risks that we see in our path. And then we either don't make a decision, or we just don't give into that passion and find a way to live a fulfilling life doing the things that we enjoy doing. And the women talked a lot about decision points in their life, like yours. You talked about being on maternity leave and saying, I'm not going back to what I used to do. I'm doing something different and charting a new path. And so it's always interesting for me to hear what those decision points were. And I'm sure they're not always big thunder, lightning bolts. Sometimes it's the small decisions made day after day that get us to a place that speaks to us and drives us to say, okay, something different is waiting for me, and I'm going to go towards that to forge that path.
That's great point. And I think what I used to teach my student is, if you have to make a decision, see the choice number one, or not making any change, on a movie screen, and just play this movie. See yourself, if you don't make this decision in 1 year or 5 years, 10 years time, see what kind of people you're interacting with, where are you living, what you're working, are you traveling, are you happy, how does this make you feel? And then I tell them, close this movie and open another movie screen and see if you make this decision, how would you feel in a year or 5 or 10 years time? And whatever feels better, it's the right decision. It's our emotions are like a sat-nav system. It's like our soul is telling us through our emotions, this is right for you, this is not right for you. You're meant to be doing this, or you shouldn't do that. Yeah. So in my personal case, I really developed intuition. So I managed to connect both sides of my brain with my left rational scientific brain with the more intuitive, artistic, creative side, and that's what I'm teaching others to do as well. Because when we integrate those sides and we lead and make decisions from head and heart and intuition as well, and I would say follow your heart, but have the right knowledge, use your intuition, listen to your intuition, then I think we are in a position to make better decisions and create better reality for ourselves. So we're very, very powerful. And I think many women have this imposter syndrome, and there's no need. Yeah. We have so much power in ourselves. If we just knew that, we would be just moving forward, marching, and just making decisions here and there, a few decisions every day. It's just the way of mindset and living, which anyone can do.
And how does that play into building our resilience? Because it seems to me, and certainly from my own experience and listening to the stories of our winners, when you listen to your intuition, because every time I don't is when I make not good decisions. When I second guess that feeling inside, it's always the wrong path. But when you do, and it leads you to another decision point, and it helps you to navigate the next step, as you explained in the beginning and described, it's like the universe opens up for you and the next path is obvious and the next step becomes evident, or an opportunity emerges unexpectedly that takes you in a different place that you couldn't have dreamt of in a million years. I believe that those are the stepping stones to building our resilience, so that you can build up those good credits that feel good in your bones. And then when you face something that's difficult, challenging, unexpected, I think we're in a better place than to navigate through those moments. How do you view that?
I completely agree with you. As I said, when we step back and really connect with our purpose, with our intuition, and we go into the energy of heart, we know from experiments that the energy of heart is more powerful than energy of the brain as well. And when we operate from high level of the management model, I have developed that on the basis of many years of interdisciplinary research, these 5 key levels that we go through. Once you're aware of the levels, for example, in my case, I would say, if I'm facing difficulty, what would a level 4 person think, say, and do right now? And I immediately jump into that energy, which then helps me to make better decisions, to deal more easily with the difficulty and so on. Perhaps I can quickly tell listeners about the levels.
Go for it, please.
So there are 5 levels of the management shift framework or a model, and every level is characterized by specific thinking patterns, language use, emotions, beliefs, leadership style, and organizational outcomes. But this is applicable for individuals, leaders, organizations, but the whole society as well. So, for example, at level 1, our mindset is lifeless and culture is apathetic and not much gets done. So there's a lot of fear, lots of fear and worry and toxic cultures, yelling leaders, and we are more or less paralyzed to make the right decisions because of all this fear just closes the crucial parts of our brains to make the right decisions. So we can't make the right decisions at this pace. So that is level 1. And then at level 2, we have a reluctant mindset and stagnating culture. This is very lethargic, and people do a minimum they can get away with just to get their paycheck. They bring the body to work, heart and mind stay at home. And then level 3 is control mindset, orderly culture. This is traditional hierarchical command and control, micromanagement. We follow the rules and regulations. We are obedient. We do what we are told to do. And a majority of organizations and individuals operate from levels 1, 2, 3. And this is the reason why we see all these big problems in the world and in organizations, low levels of engagement, innovation, low levels of profit, and so on. So we need to go for this big shift or management shift to move from level 3 to level 4. Level 4 is enthusiastic mindset and collaborative culture. And keywords are trust, transparency, purpose, collaboration, having fun working, making a difference for the society. And here we see a step change increase in performance, innovation, engagement, and profit. Sometimes we see 100% profit increase within a year, for example. And then very occasionally we go to level 5. We can't be there all the time with limitless mindset and unbounded culture. And this is where we work day and night on some big, amazing innovations for humanity to solve big problems. And we are driven by our love of humanity. We really want to change the world. Subjective is to be level 4, occasionally level 5, and all my work is about helping leaders and organizations and eventually society to shift to this level 4. So if I'm facing difficulty, and I know levels very well because I invented them and I wrote about them, so I would say to myself, okay, this is difficult, this is scary. What would level 4 person think, say, and do now? And then I immediately jump in my mindset to level 4 and thinking, oh, this is not too bad. There is a different way of looking into this problem. This too shall pass. And then it's much easier.
Well, you make it sound so very simple and very, very easy. We should all be at least level 4. In your book, Vlatka, you talk about the need for a new kind of leadership. Tell us about that, given the backdrop of what we're all facing in the world today.
So I will tell you, I started preaching this type of leadership about 15, 16 years ago. Okay. And because I'm a futurist and I have this vision what's coming in the future. So 15 years ago, I saw that and I wrote about it and articulated a model and I did a lot of research. And some people were thinking, oh, what is this woman talking about? But now, especially when pandemic started, I have received so many emails, people telling me, what you were preaching all these years, this is going to be the only way to survive and thrive. And I completely agree. And I have been looking into other research studies now since the pandemic started, what people expect from leaders, what issues leaders have, and it completely is aligned with level 4, 5. So this is what employees expect, and this is what leaders have to do. So they have to show compassion. They have to have vision and clear communication and develop communities and develop trust and transparency. So everything I've been using to describe level 4 or 5, now it's coming out, well, this is what is needed, especially because most organizations are continue to work in a hybrid way. Yeah. So how can you micromanage somebody working from home, overlooking over their shoulder? Yeah. You have to trust that they will produce the output and let them decide when, where, and how they're going to do their work. It's the only way. Yeah. And also just support this collaboration, communication, even though many people may still work from home, but encourage them, inspire them to meet together as well, occasionally at least. And this conversations and interactions will spark new innovations as well. So it's important to have the balance of both.
How prescient, to be sure. Share with us how you build your resilience.
I think the more you have to deal with, the more resilient you become. Right? So one of the quotes that I like to share is, if you want to give the light to the world, you have to be prepared to take some heat. And sometimes I feel like a roasted person, but
We've all been there.
I understand. And I had more than a fair share of it. But as I said, if I did not have all that, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be talking to you today and sharing all this experience and knowledge. So I also always had this ability to see the big picture. Even when I was very, very young, I was a little bit ahead of the time as well. At the time, I was a kind of a wunderkind. When the teacher asked my parents, well, she's so bored, why doesn't she do 2 years in 1 year at school?
Oh, wow.
And then my parents said, oh no, let's just let her have a normal childhood. Let's not do that. But I was very reflective, and I always could see the big picture and think, okay, this is happening. It's difficult, but there must be a reason, and there must be something good coming out of that long term, however difficult it feels at the moment. And that has followed me throughout my life. Even today, I have the same questions, which are, well, level 4 thinking. See the big picture, see how would you grow from this experience, how much more wisdom you're going to get from this experience, and how can you inspire others to be resilient through this experience. So these are the questions that go through my mind. And also using intuition, just having this knowing, okay, this is difficult, but I just know I'm going to be okay. I'm protected, I'm looked after, because I have this big mission. That's how it feels.
How interesting. You've really parlayed your unique, special gift into not only a profession, but a calling, as you spoke of earlier. And it's really become your touchstone to guide you to confidently move forward, which is really extraordinary. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we'd like to actually learn a little bit more about you, Vlatka, personally, and we're going to hit you with our rapid fire questions that we like to ask all of our guests. And the first one is, what's the last thing you Googled?
Estate agents, I'm looking to buy a new house. Just before I came here, I was Googling houses.
Good for you. What are you reading right now for pleasure? Because I'm sure you will read a lot professionally.
Oh gosh, I have to tell you that I have piles of books everywhere around me, and I never have a time to read one book from first to the last page, but I always dip in and out of books.
Oh, I love that you can do that. I cannot. I'm a stickler. I start the book, I have to finish it before I move on to the next one. Good for you.
So yes, there are books about neuroscience, and there are books about personal development and igniting your power, etc., etc. Very, very deep, interesting books.
Indeed.
I don't have time to read fiction much, but I like to have these deep books around me, and I randomly dip in and out of them, and sometimes I just feel intuitively guided. What should I have a look at the moment?
How interesting. Tell us, what are your top 3 favorite ways to relax?
Well, number 1 must be dancing. I do ballroom and Latin dancing.
Oh, how fantastic.
And I'm so delighted that's possible to do again, as every Sunday, sometimes twice a week.
Wow.
I go to a very nice place, and I do about 4 or 5 hours, 4.5 hours.
That's quite a workout.
It's a great workout. It's beautiful. So that's what I absolutely love to do. I love going, obviously spending time with my family and my children is very important, and friends, but I love singing as well. I used to sing classical music, semi-professional.
Of course you did.
So I love singing. That's beautiful relaxation. And going to nature. I live close to the river.
Very nice.
I go for walks by the river, and with my smartphone, I even write by the river as I walk. I talk to my smartphone and create articles sometimes, just get inspired. So So these are some of my few.
Very
favorites.
good. And finally, what is your next travel destination?
I hope it's going to be Croatia. And I hope to set up a second home there in the future on the seaside. But it's all work in progress. But I'm hoping that will be my next destination.
As I like to tell my clients, it's good to have goals, because without that, we don't know where we're going. Back to purpose.
I'm visualizing myself and
Oh.
drinking my smoothie and watching the sea in Croatia.
Oh, how fantastic. We'll all be joining you there to be sure.
You're all
given the
invited.
opportunity.
You will be.
Thank you. Vlatka, it's been a delight speaking with you. Thank you for sharing your insights. And I'd love to give you the opportunity to share any final thoughts with our audience.
I would just like to say to everybody, be aware how powerful you are. Because with our words, with our actions, we can create huge, powerful ripples. And I will share a story about a lady that I interviewed for my latest book, Humane Capital. So she worked for a pharmaceutical company, and one day she wrote a very short email to her CEO saying, "Dear CEO, our customers are very diverse, but our management board is not diverse at all. It's all middle-aged men." So first, CEO hasn't responded, but she sent the email to her colleague, and then it went viral. And then it went to many people, and they self-organized, they started forums, and they started publishing things on intranet. Long story short, CEO had to take notice of what she did. 6 months later, she formed a Facebook group with hundreds of thousands of followers. The CEO created a new job for her, which she left. She is now independent consultant, just published her first book, and she got OBE from French president. And she's French. So all because of that one short email. So never underestimate your power, be it an email or a post on social media or a conversation over lunch with a colleague. You are more powerful than you can imagine. So just use this power and spread these ripples of goodness.
How extraordinary. Thank you for sharing that. We really are all women of impact, and in the smallest gesture, as you say, can have an extraordinary impact and a ripple effect on whether it be one person or many people. But it is important to remember that we do have power, and it's important to know our purpose in order to build and keep our resilience and maintain it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Vlatka. Croatian women of influence are incredible and making wonderful impacts around the world. Viewers will be sharing more of our Croatian Women of Influence winners over the coming months, so stay tuned with us. We'll be releasing a new podcast around every other week. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us. We wish you all the best. Be well and stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Doviđenja.